I lied to my boyfriend and went to a bachelorette party behind his back, even though I had forbidden him from going to his best friends. And he kicked me out of the house. Do I really deserve this treatment? I know many of you are going to judge me that I don't know you, but I can already imagine what you're thinking. Just another one who thought she was clever and ended up losing everything. Maybe you're right, maybe not. All I know is that it all started with a lie. One that, at the time, seemed harmless, something small. And yet, it was enough to destroy everything I had. I still struggle to understand how a single decision could trigger so much that I've asked myself 1,000 times if what I did was really that serious, if I deserved everything that came after. But anyway, you're here to hear my side, aren't you? So I'll tell it to you. Raw, unembellished, with all the good, the bad, and what I still haven't come to terms with. I was with Nolan for 7 years. 7 full years. We went from being almost strangers who met at some random gathering to sharing keys, accounts, and dreams. They weren't perfect, of course not, but they were ours. Stable, peaceful, the kind that don't make you doubt, that give you that feeling of solid ground beneath your feet. Nolan was many things. He was one of those men who don't need to make a scene to be noticed. He had a way of looking that calmed, a low laugh that always brought a smile to my face, even on my grayest days. He was affectionate, loyal, patient. He had a way of loving that didn't suffocate, that didn't demand constant proof. He gave me freedom, but also presence. And most importantly, he made me feel safe, not just protected, but safe in myself, as if I was worth something too. He wasn't an impulsive guy. He never raised his voice or made dramas. When something bothered him, he talked about it, always from a calm, mature place. I guess that's what I admired most about him, and also what I took for granted the most. We had plans, small things like changing the sofa, and big things like buying an apartment together, adopting a dog, traveling through Europe before having kids. Sometimes we'd stay up just imagining names for those kids who hadn't arrived yet. And we'd laugh, or hug in silence, as if we were already waiting for them. Honestly, I thought he was the one. And I think, until not long ago, he thought the same about me. He had that way of looking at me when we talked about the future, as if he could already see it all clearly to AS, if he didn't doubt for a second that I would be there. Now it's hard to look back without feeling like I ruined something that many people spend their lives searching for. To understand my mistake, you need to know this: that a year ago, Nolan was invited to his best friend's bachelor party. He was excited. He talked about Las Vegas, the shows, how epic the weekend promised to be. His eyes lit up every time he told anecdotes about those friends, some of whom he hadn't seen since college. And I smiled on the outside. But inside, something twisted. It wasn't exactly jealousy. It was more like fear. Insecurity, the idea of him going to get drunk, surrounded by women and friends who might not share his values, made me uneasy. Not that I thought Nolan would do something, but I couldn't help imagining all the possible scenarios. Those you sometimes see on social media, or that a friend tells you with tears in her eyes. I never thought he was capable, they say. And I didn't want to be one of those stories. We didn't argue. We didn't make a scene. I just told him how I felt, trying to sound reasonable. I talked to him about the risks. I told him those parties were a nest of temptations, that with alcohol, judgment gets clouded, that sometimes loving someone isn't enough if the context pushes you to act badly. That I didn't want him to put himself in a situation where he could ruin what we had for a moment of weakness. He listened to me. In silence. He didn't get angry or defensive. He just watched me for a long time, and in the end he sighed and said he understood. He decided not to go. He canceled the trip. He made up an excuse to his friend. And that should have made me feel relieved, but the truth is I felt guilty, as if I had taken something from him. Before closing the subject, he looked at me with that calm he had even when something hurt him. And he said, "Okay, I won't go, but if I don't go to bachelor parties, you shouldn't go either. Ever." He said it without a tone of reproach, like a kind of mirror deal. And I accepted it, without thinking too much. I said yes, like someone who wants to end an uncomfortable conversation. In my mind, I didn't take it so literally that it was just a bachelor party, a detail without importance. I didn't think it would ever matter that I didn't think about that agreement again until a friend invited me to her bachelorette party. A weekend at the beach. Just girls, she told me. Nothing weird. Sun, sea, good music, cocktails, and laughs. At first, I hesitated. I really hesitated. When I read it in the WhatsApp group, I felt a pang in my stomach that I imagined the conversation with Nolan. I imagined his face. I remembered his words. "If I don't go to bachelor parties, you shouldn't go either. Ever." I told them I couldn't, that I had made a promise, that I didn't want problems. They laughed. Point one sent a sticker of a woman with a martyr's face. Another said, "Oh, Layla, please." How old-fashioned. They called me exaggerated, intense. One commented that men always made a drama out of nothing, and another said that half of their boyfriends didn't even know about these things. They reminded me it was a light bachelorette party without scandals, just friends having a good time with drinks and silly games. "It's not like you're going to do something bad," one said, and that phrase stuck with me. And I started to give in. It wasn't overnight that it was like slowly opening a door. First, I said I'd think about it. Then I asked who else was going. After that, maybe I could go for just one night. That I wasn't sure yet. But before I knew it, I was already checking bikinis online, asking if we'd share a room, and booking a nail appointment for Friday before the trip. Because deep down, I wanted to go. I wanted to feel part of something. I wanted to laugh, dance, sunbathe, feel free, desired, pretty. It had nothing to do with Nolan. Or so I told myself. It was for me, and for the things I felt I had put on hold over the years. And then the excuses came, one after another, like a mantra I repeated every time guilt brushed my heels. It's not the same as Nolan's. I'm not going to do anything wrong. He would never understand, and I don't want to argue. It's just a weekend with the girls. What could happen? Then came the uglier part, lying to him. I sat on the edge of the bed and told him my mother had gotten sick, that I had to go see her, that I made up an infection. Something that sounded serious but believable. My voice didn't even tremble. Nolan believed me without a second thought. He hugged me. He helped me pack a light suitcase that he offered me money for expenses, in case my mother needed anything. He even drove me to the station to catch the bus, though in reality, a friend was going to pick me up. On the way, he looked at me with concern. He asked if I needed him to call her to keep her company over the phone. He told me not to hesitate to stay longer if she got worse. To let him know if he needed to go too. That I nodded, smiled, squeezed his hand. I felt a bit like an actress, but not a good one. When I saw his car drive away, something tightened in my chest. But it wasn't guilt. Not it was nerves. A childish feeling of doing something forbidden. And upon arriving at the beach house, seeing all my friends with their sunglasses, their laughter, the bottles lined up on the table, and the music playing, I forgot everything for a while. That I didn't feel guilty. I felt free, as if, for once, I was doing something just for me, something without permission, without explanations, without consequences. And I believed all my excuses. At least, for that first night, the trip was fun. More than I'd like to admit. We arrived on Friday at noon, and from the first moment, It was all laughter, sun, loud music, sweet drinks that went down like water, and photos for stories that disappear in 24 hours did I let myself go. I told myself I needed it, that I deserved it, that I wasn't doing anything wrong. The salty air, the hot skin under the sun, bare feet in the sand, that we laughed at anything. We sang old songs at the top of our lungs. We played guessing who would get married next after the bride, that I felt part of something. Light, as if I could erase my life for a weekend and be someone else, another Layla, one who didn't have to measure every word or carry expectations. The first night was calm. Some drinks, silly games, confessions among friends, the bride crying with emotion watching a video with greetings from her family. We slept late, between sighs of nostalgia and laughter muffled under the sheets. Everything seemed innocent, but the second night changed tone. There was more alcohol, much more, margaritas, mojitos, vodka with juice, glasses that never emptied. More shouts, more euphoria. We were all looser, noisier, as if we had been let out of an invisible cage, and then they arrived. Two muscular guys in cheap firefighter and police costumes. They came in dancing to loud music, one of those absurd songs that play at bachelorette parties. They were prepared. Colored lights, oil on their chests, rehearsed moves. Some screamed as if we were at a concert. The bride covered her face, dying of laughter, and one of my friends almost fell off her chair that I froze. I didn't see it coming. No one had told me there would be strippers. Relax, Layla. One shouted at me between laughs and pushes. It's not like you're a nun. I tried to laugh too, that I didn't want to spoil the party. I didn't want them to see me as the boring one, the repressed one, the one who always says no. I took another drink, and another. The glass tasted like melon but burned going down. And I stayed there, watching them, laughing, clapping with the others, pretending everything was fine, until one of them approached me. He offered me his hand. I didn't say no. I didn't say anything that I went up with another girl. I sat next to her. Slower music started playing, and the guy took me by the waist, spun me, sat me on his lap. Everyone was clapping, laughing, filming. Someone shouted, "That's it, Layla." And I didn't get off. They put a phallic-shaped necklace on me. Ridiculous, grotesque, shiny plastic. And I accepted it. They hung it between my breasts, as if it were a crown, a joke. A temporary badge that I was in party mode. One of the girls took a photo of us, me on the stripper's lap, with the necklace shining, laughing as if I had nothing to lose. And in that instant, I didn't think about Nolan, nor about the deal, nor about the lie that had brought me there. I only thought about how good I felt, how easy it was to forget everything, how light life seemed when no one expected anything from me. On Sunday at noon, I was still at the beach, lying on a lounger, with the sun hitting my face, half dizzy from the hangover, salty skin, the bikini clinging to my body. I listened to the murmur of the sea mixed with some pop song coming from a portable speaker. The others were still asleep in the cabin, with the curtains drawn and the fans spinning over their heads like slow helicopters. I just thought about how much fun we had, how much I laughed, how free I felt. I stayed like that for a while, in silence, with heavy eyelids. And then, like a bolt of lightning, I remembered Nolan, that I realized he hadn't written to me since Friday. Nothing. Not an emoji. Not a simple, "How's everything?" I felt a strange knot in my stomach. I wanted to attribute it to the cheap alcohol, the poorly digested breakfast, the stifling heat. But no, it was something else. I took my phone and sent him a message. A casual, innocent one, like testing the waters. "Everything okay over there?" A few minutes passed. I looked at the screen, swinging my legs on the lounger, and when it vibrated, something in me knew something was wrong. I read the message. I already know everything. No need for you to come back. Your things will be waiting for you outside. I froze. The phone slipped from my hand. I didn't understand. How? What had he seen? Who had told him? I called him immediately, once. Twice. 3 times, nothing. Not a voice message. Not a text. Just that damn silence that screams louder than any insult. My head was spinning. My heart was pounding as if it wanted to escape my chest that I ran to pack the little I had taken out of the suitcase. I didn't even say goodbye properly to the girls. One asked me what was wrong, and I answered something random. I took the first transportation I found. I didn't even know if it was the fastest. I just wanted to move, get out of there, get back before everything turned to dust. I spent hours looking at the road, the palm trees, the signs, the kilometers that never ended, trying to invent an excuse, a speech, something that could fix whatever Nolan had seen, something that could soften the fall. I arrived home late at night. The building was dark, silent. I went up with my soul tight, and there they were .my things. Black bags, thrown like trash right next to the door. Some were open. My shoes were visible. Some books, the scarf he had knitted for me that winter. I knocked. Hard, desperate. Nolan, please open up. We need to talk. It's not what it seems. A few seconds passed. Eternal, until the door opened. Slowly. And there he was. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. It wasn't anger. It was something worse, coldness, disgust, as if he didn't even recognize me. What do you want? He said dryly, as if each word cost him patience. Just to talk. Let me explain, please. He took a moment. His gaze pierced me. Then he stepped aside as I entered. My legs were trembling. My chest was burning that we sat in silence. Or rather, I sat. He stayed standing, arms crossed, looking at me with a mix of disappointment and contained fury that it was as if he was holding back a volcano under an icy surface. Speak, he said. I swallowed that it was hard to find the tone. It was a bachelorette party. It was supposed to be just girls. I didn't know they were going to bring strippers. Nothing serious happened. It was silly. He didn't say anything. He just took his phone out of his pocket, showed it to me. There was the photo. Me, in a bikini, laughing with a red face, sitting on the lap of a half-naked guy. That damn necklace hanging between my breasts. My friends shouting in the background, frozen in a moment that seemed fun, until you see it through the broken eyes of the other side. I didn't know what to say. My mouth trembled. The air turned to stone in my lungs. He lowered the phone, looked at me. Is that your sick mother? His voice was so soft it hurt more than a shout. Nolan, did you use your mom as an excuse for this? I didn't. I didn't know someone was going to upload that photo. It was a mistake. It's not what it seems. We were just playing. Playing. His tone changed for the first time. Just a tremor of controlled fury. You were playing while I thought your mother might be hospitalized. Playing while I felt guilty for not accompanying you. Is that what you call playing? I didn't ride anyone. It was a second. They sat me down. It wasn't even my idea. Of course, you're always the victims. You do everything unintentionally. But you sure knew how to forbid me from going to Victor's bachelor party. Remember? You made a drama out of less than this. And I listened to you. Like an idiot. I missed that weekend out of respect for you. He ran his hand over his face, as if trying not to lose control. And what did you do with that respect, Layla? I didn't say anything. I just felt my eyes filling with tears. You used your mom, Layla. You lied to me without your voice trembling. You made me feel guilty, worried. And meanwhile, You were there, sitting on oiled-up guys as if nothing. Do you understand how humiliating it was to receive that photo? Do you understand what it feels like to realize that the woman you loved turned you into a clown in front of everyone? I covered my face. I couldn't hold his gaze. I was drowning. I wanted to disappear. You picked the wrong person, Layla. If you think that after this I'm going to stay with you, you don't know me. It's over. Take your things and leave. No, please. We can talk about it. It was just a stupidity. I didn't want it to come to this. You didn't want me to find out. That's the only thing you regret. That you got caught. He looked at me one last time. And that look was worse than any shout. It was a silent farewell. A condemnation. Leave. And this time he didn't let me respond. I left. With my clothes dragging on the floor, swollen eyes, and the bags clutched to my chest as if they could protect me from the cold filling me inside. I don't remember if I cried at that moment or if it was later. I just know I walked, and each step felt like a punishment that I stayed that night at a friend's house, though I barely spoke. I limited myself to saying we had broken up. Nothing more. I couldn't repeat what had happened. I was ashamed even to think about it. The next morning, still with red eyes, I called work to say I was going to be absent. I made up an excuse. Something about my mother again. I don't know why I did it. I guess I was already on autopilot, but Nolan's silence haunted me like an echo. He didn't write to me. He didn't ask if I arrived safely, that he didn't block me. He just disappeared. As if I were nobody that I checked our photos, our messages, the nice things he used to say to me, and now every word sounded hollow. Not because it was a lie, but because they wouldn't be repeated. And there I understood there was no turning back, that I went back to work on Wednesday, still with a cloudy mind. I had barely slept in 2 days. I put on the first thing I found in the suitcase that I arrived early and tried to pretend everything was fine. But it was enough to run into 2 colleagues in the hallway to realize something had changed. Their looks, the awkward smiles, the barely disguised murmurs. A few hours later, my boss called me to her office. She was serious. She asked me if the thing with my mother had been real. I hesitated for a second before saying yes. Then she showed me her phone screen. It was the photo. I didn't know what to say, that I froze. She didn't get angry. She didn't raise her voice. She just settled in her chair and looked at me as if she had already made a decision. Layla, this isn't just about the photo. She began with a calm, almost compassionate tone. It's about everything that came before. I stayed silent, waiting. This isn't the first time you've taken leave without justification. In March, you left for a whole week and only submitted a scanned certificate that could never be verified. In May, you missed 2 days in a row because you said you had an emotional crisis. Add to that you've been late more than a dozen times this quarter. And now this. After this, how do you expect me to believe everything else you've told us? I didn't know where to look. I felt like I was falling apart inside. But the worst, she continued, was that this time you used your mother as an excuse. A serious illness. Something delicate. Something many of us here have dealt with for real. And meanwhile, you were at a bachelorette party. Doing this, she pointed to the image of the stripper. And during work hours, that same Saturday, we had to reorganize the whole team because there wasn't enough staff to cover the shift. And you were supposedly taking care of your mother. I swallowed. I had no way to defend myself. It was all true. I made a mistake. I didn't think that this would come out like this. I didn't know someone was going to take a photo. The problem isn't the photo. The problem is the lie, the repetition, the lack of commitment, and now the distrust. How do you think a team can function if we don't know when you're going to tell the truth? I lowered my gaze. I knew what was coming. I'm sorry, but we can't sustain this. You've lost the team's trust and mine too. As of today, you're fired. There was nothing more to say. They asked me to leave, that's how it ended. I left with a cardboard box in my hands, not knowing who to look at. No one approached, and no one said anything. And there I understood that I hadn't just lost Nolan. I had lost everything else too. It's been 3 months since then. And I still wake up hoping it was all a nightmare. But no, every day reminds me of what I no longer have. Nolan didn't come looking for me again. He didn't write to me. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't block me. Nor did he insult me. He just disappeared. As if I were a stage that ended and it was no longer worth looking back. That was what hurt the most, the indifference. I still don't know at what exact moment I lost him, or if it was a sum of things that I thought we were fine, that we were strong, that even when we argued, we knew how to find each other again. But this time there was no return. Yes, I lied. Yes, I used an excuse I shouldn't have, but I didn't cheat on him. I didn't betray him with another. I didn't cross that line. I just wanted a breather. I wanted to go out with my friends, feel free for a while. Maybe I handled it wrong. Maybe I got too confident. But I still think it wasn't that big of a deal. That it could have been talked about. That it could have been forgiven. It felt like everything was ripped away from me at once. My partner, my home, my job, and now I'm here, rereading messages that no longer mean anything. Looking at photos that used to make me smile and now only squeeze my chest. Part of me understands what I did. But another part still wonders why everything fell apart so quickly. Why wasn't it enough to apologize? Why didn't anyone give me a second chance? Maybe I was stupid, but I didn't deserve to lose everything.